Hello, Year 9. I hope you are keeping well and safe at home. I know that it must be very difficult sometimes to get some of your work done, but I hope that you are engaging with the website and looking at all the resources and all the work that we've put on there for you. I'd like to talk to you today about some music work to help you to continue with the course, and hopefully the work that I am going to go through with you today will have a real impact in year 10 when we come to look at our compulsory unit for our BTEC. Okay, so I'd like to share some information with you now so that we can go through some slides together. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm hoping then that you will have seen this sheet before. I set this for you to do a couple of weeks ago, and it was to think about how music festivals work and the sort of planning and the preparation and organisation that goes into creating a music festival. And there is absolutely loads of questions on here and a site plan and everything else. So if you haven't done this, I would urge you to find this on the Shed site, or even just use this this information here, and to have a go at doing this before carrying on with this lesson now. If you would like me to look at any work that you've done or any of the work that I'm going to go through with you today, or even if you've just got some questions about your work, or you'd like to have a talk about it, then if you email me, I will get back to you as quickly as I can. So my email address is hon, so it's HON, at birkenheadparkschool.com. Okay, so that's hon, HON, at birkenheadparkschool.com. So if you email me and send me any work that you've done, I'd love to give you some feedback on that. So let's have a little think then about how we can use that information and think about what advantages and disadvantages of a music festival in different locations would have. So I'd like you to do this little task for me now. If you were planning your own music festival, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of either using a local park or a greenfield site that has room for multiple stages, or a number of venues in a town centre? So you can think about Birkenhead Park, and creating a music festival in the park at the back of the school, and think about the advantages of doing it there and what maybe the disadvantages would be, what would be the pros and the cons, and then think about using various venues around the town centre, cafes, the library, performance venues, anything at all really that would hold an audience and a music act. Okay, so if you create this little table on a piece of paper, so you put your advantages down, you probably need 3 or 4 for each one, and your disadvantages for a park or an outdoor site, or a multi-venue situation in the town centre. If you pause the video now and start it up again when you're ready. Okay, well done, Year 9. So let's have a little think about the sorts of answers that you could have come up with. Remember, we're looking at creating our own music festival and what the advantages and the disadvantages would be to either using the park behind the school maybe, or using multi-venues in town. So that's what I think you could have come up with. Let's think about the park first. So the advantages of using the park are that it allows for a massive capacity, doesn't it? The park is really big, so you could sell lots of tickets and make lots of money from using the park. And it could have a family atmosphere, and everyone could come along. You've got the chance to have multiple stages in the park, showcasing different musical genres. So you've got the option to appeal to a large audience of people with different tastes and styles. Lots of money could be made on ticket sales. And not only that, what about merchandise and food and beverages that you could sell on various stalls throughout the site? you would only need one site manager and one team of people to manage the whole festival. There are disadvantages though of using the park: the weather. If it rains for the whole weekend that you've decided to put your music festival on, then you might not find that many people turn up. You might find that some people want their money back. It might be that people were going to turn up on the day and they don't come on the day, and so your potential to lose money is quite high. There's no electricity or toilets for the capacity on the site, is that, so you're going to have to bring in porta toilets, you're going to have to bring in generators, you're going to have to bring in all the lighting and the staging and all the sound equipment, because there is nothing already there. So that's going to be quite an outlay of money, isn't it? And setting up, really. So that's something to consider. Crowds might not come if you haven't got a good headline act, something, a bit of a hook to hook them into the festival. And security issues on the sort of site might be quite difficult if you can't manage to put a cordon or a boundary around the site. So they're the advantages and the disadvantages. If you were then to think about moving your festival to town and using lots of different venues within town, then the advantages of that are that the weather wouldn't affect this. People will come if they're going to come. And so you can sell your tickets, and the money you're going to make is probably going to be the money that you anticipated on making. The venues will already have amenities such as staging, electricity, toilets, running water, all of those sorts of things. And the staging and lights are usually within the venues that you're going to use, so the hiring costs of equipment may not be as high. And the security risks and the risk assessment are going to be easy to amend because these venues already have a history of maybe putting on performances. The disadvantages, though, of using these multiple venues in town are that in each one, the capacity is probably quite limited. And so the amount of tickets you're going to sell for each of your performances might be quite limited. You might have to, you might have people who don't want to really move between venues. And so some venues might be more popular than others. You're going to have I've said that before, sorry, capacity will be limited in some venues, it will. But also, I think what I'm wanting to say here is that your ticket sales also are going to be down, aren't they? And so the amount of money that you could potentially make for this festival, and you might have to hire each of the individual venues, which is going to be, you know, a massive outlay of money. And then you're going to need a team of people to run each of these venues, which again is an outlay of money. Okay, so have a little think about that. That's a question that did come up on an exam paper, and so you could have a go at doing that again if you wanted to. Okay, so moving on today to look at today's focus. I want you to think about really drilling down and planning your own festival. And I've got a series of questions for you here to consider. So I really want you to have done that initial sheet so that you can think about what you put on your initial planning, and then transfer that thinking to really drilling down and putting some detail into your plans. The reason I'm asking you to do this is because next year when we start your BTEC qualification in terms of the units that we need to cover, we are going to start with Unit 2. And Unit 2 is the planning, creation, the managing of a music product. And we're going to think about what it would be like to make our own musical recordings. It would have been a CD, wouldn't it? I think a few years ago. But now I think that due to music being making more money online, I think you would do your musical recordings and then think about how you're going to sell them. So managing the project is what you're going to be doing. The musicality of it is not really where you're going to pick up your marks. It's going to be on the planning and the preparing of it and the potential to make some money. So organising your own music festival is a bit of a dry run at this, managing your own project. So I want you to have a little think about these questions. and I want you to be able to provide me with some planning for your festival. So what would your theme be, or would you have one? What's it going to be called? What's your festival going to be called? Could you create and design a logo that would go with this? And you could like research festivals such as Glastonbury and Creamfields and look at the kind of logos and merchandise that they've created for their festivals. Roughly what date and time of year would you hold your festival, and what's your justification for picking that date and time? What venue are you going to consider? Now, we've just considered 2 within our Do Now activity, so maybe you might want to consider those further, or maybe you want to think about something else. Which performers are you going to invite to perform at your festival? How are you going to get in touch with them? Are you going to hold auditions for them? How are you going to do that? What are you going to offer them? Because you've got a limited budget here, haven't you, if any at all? Who would your audience be, and who are you going to target to come to this festival? How would you advertise it? So what would your posters look like? What would your flyers look like? Would you put an advert on the local radio? What would you do to advertise this festival? Would you decorate the venue? And how would you do this? Well, you've got to think about outside festivals. I know that when I've looked at this in the past, people have talked about having a fun fair, or an area where you could like import some sand, so that you've got an area that's a bit more family friendly to entice more people along. Who would you have to host it? Would you have somebody on the stage who would introduce it? Would you do it yourself so that you could keep your costs down? Who would your team be? And how much would you charge for your tickets? And when you're thinking about this, think also about what you've already decided and what your overheads are going to be. So that's quite a lot of work there. So I really want you to think about what your festival would be, and I want some detailed planning, okay? So then once you've got this, I want you to think about the equipment that you're going to need. What equipment would you need for your stage, for the gates, for the lighting, for the sound? What are you going to need? And it really does depend on your venue as to what your equipment is going to be. You need to write a list of music that you might want to have performed at your festival or your concert, and you might want to think about a wish list of artists who might want to come and perform at your festival. Okay. And then once you've done that planning, think about the artwork, think about how you're going to promote your festival. This poster here is an Ed Sheeran poster, and this is from his American tour. He's got his tour dates down the side and where he's going to be. And his sort of graphics and his images really do match the graphics from his albums. So have a little think about that, down to the font and the colours, what's going to stand out. So when you look at this poster, what makes it a good poster? Does it have any useful information on it? What is it that makes the poster something that we might want to look at, and think about answering that question for me? And then underneath that, could you write a list of things about why it's not particularly a good poster? What information is it missing? So you've got a bit of an advantage and disadvantage there, a pros list, a cons list, and see what you could come up with there. I then want you to think about how you're going to promote your concert. Are you going to have posters, flyers? Are you going to put an advert in the local paper? Are you going to stick them in bus shelters? How are you going to do it? You need a promotional campaign. Okay, that's an awful lot of information to take in. And I'm going to leave you with this thought, really. When planning your own festival, it's really, really important to think who your target audience is. What do we mean by a target audience? Okay, I'm going to go through that with you at the start of our next session. Let me just stop sharing this. Okay, all of those sheets that I've used there in my presentation to you are on the school site for you to use, and I really want you to think really, really carefully about your planning. Okay, when we come to do this in September and we come to plan our own CD or our own musical recordings, we're going to think about who our target audience is, why we're doing it, what we're going to call our CD, where we're going to play it, and where's it going to be performed, how are we going to publicise it, who's going to see those images and those posters, how are we marketing it to the public. So all of these things we're going to cover. Now, if you do this today and you have a practice run at it in doing this music festival, it's going to help you so much in September. I know that my year 11s that are just leaving now, they said at the end of this project that if only they'd had, if only they could do it again, they would do a better job, because they would know the restraints and restrictions that they're in. So have a little think about it, have a little think about your planning, and come up with some really, really creative ideas. If you would like to send me anything, I will give you some feedback straight away. And if you'd like to do a video call, we can organise that. Okay. Most importantly, I hope that you are all safe and well, and I hope that you will get in touch if you would like to, and I hope that you can engage with this work. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this for you today. I'm missing you all an awful lot. It's a very strange time, and I'm here for you. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you on the next recording. Bye now.